decisions that NBA teams are going to have to make this offseason. Before I get right into that in the live stream, I want to make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you get all the updates and all the breakdowns. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to be covering some of the toughest situations NBA-wise that teams are going to have to forego because of salary cap, because of talent, because of overall depth. And we got a couple of interesting teams and title contender teams that's going to make this list. When you're thinking about overall what it's going to take to win an NBA title, it takes a lot. It takes depth, it takes a bench, it takes stars, it takes role players, it takes a number of things. And it also takes coaching staffs that know how to coach and know how to mentor, know how to help build up confidence and bring these guys along. So with that being said, the first team that's on this list is the Boston Celtics. Yes, they did lose Jason Tatum in the playoffs, and you're looking at the CBA, the collective bargain agreement. We know what it's been the last couple of years. We knew it's been coming. We knew it's been looming. We knew the Boston Celtics evaded it a little bit by using trades, by using cap exceptions with trades and things like that in draft picks. But now it's here. So the Boston Celtics have an interesting decision when you think about Al Horford, when you think about White, when you think about Kristaps Porzingis, when you think about Brown, when you think about all their starters and their bench guys, Al Horford as well. They can't pay everybody. So you got to keep in mind the long shot of what they have is you got to make aggressive trades. If you're the Boston Celtics, you have to get trades and essentially open up some of that cap space. You don't want to be too far under the salary cap penalty where you're paying essentially double for what it is. Use all of your player exceptions. You're going to have to use those. And you're going to have to make trades or deals and waive salary cap. Because you have a team that has a lot of top-heavy guys, you don't have a lot of individual salaries that you can just get rid of on your own, so you're going to have to make trades, take back salary, and get rid of those players immediately almost. So for the standpoint, the big thing for the Boston Celtics this offseason, collect draft picks and release bad salaries. You know, when you make big deals for guys that aren't really playing anymore, the guys that are sitting on benches, essentially get them so you can release them. Get them so you can flip them and get that salary cap out the way. And you got to think, the Celtics are one of those teams that they're going to be back in the playoff contention. They're going to be back competitive even before Jason Tatum comes back. But you want to make sure that the team that you're fielding on the basketball court has enough talent and it's not ripped out essentially of the core of Jrue Holiday, ripped out of the central court of Brown and Tatum. You want those guys there. So you're going to have to do extra math and stuff like that to make sure these things fit. And you got to think, paying Derek White, paying Jaylen Brown, paying Jason Tatum, that's essentially just almost $100 million in itself. You got to think, that takes up a lot of salary cap. These guys make a lot of money, and you got to think, can you keep a Derek White? Can you keep an Al Horford? Can you keep some of these guys? Because it doesn't look like it's favorable at this point in time from that standpoint. The next team up, I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, and you're thinking, what up, Danny? With Nikola Jokic, you got Jamal Murray, you got Michael Porter Jr., you've got a lot of different guys that are essentially core veterans. You need to develop the younger draft picks that you have on that team. Develop the younger guys that you drafted so you can have reinforcements on your bench. Develop so much of it. You say, how do you play Fortnite? I'm not sure how you play Fortnite, but when you're thinking at the Denver Nuggets and you're thinking about Michael Porter Jr., you're thinking about Nikola Jokic, you're thinking about Jamal Murray, these are guys that you want to see on this team moving forward. I think during free agency, they're going to have to make choices with Russell Westbrook. They're going to have to make choices essentially with Aaron Gordon, whether to extend him or not. And you got to think, this team is a couple of baskets away from being back in the Western Conference Finals. When you think about just the way that they took Oklahoma City to the brim of elimination and how they played that team back and forth, they could have possibly won that series. So when you think of the way that they match up with other teams, it is. So I think for the most part, the Denver Nuggets need to work on their bench. They need to work on actually getting draft picks that are going to stay on the team. And with the new coaching staff, you got to ask yourself, are they going to do some of the things that Mike Malone did last season? Are they going to have the team a little closer as far as that goes? And it's, you got to think, this team doesn't need a hard reset. It doesn't need a big reset, but you have to use your free agency cap. You have to use your trade exceptions. You have to use some of these things to get some more talent in there. I would think that you need a defensive stopper or two. Get Jokic a backup that he can have. That it's not just for saying it, but Jokic needs a backup that's actually going to be able to score. Jokic, they don't have a defender on that team that can back up Jokic and do what he does as far as the offense coming through him and being just aggressive offensively, not just defensively. They have a couple of defensive stoppers there, but it's not just guys that can play offense too. So if you're Denver, you want to get guys that can come off the bench that can help score. You want to transition your bench into guys that play heavy minutes, so you can balance out that roster as far as guys not being tired in the fourth quarter. And I think that that's what they were last year. They were gassed. Essentially, if you think of the playoffs, they were gassed. This is how much you know about sports marketing. I know a lot about sports marketing. But the next up, I'm going to be thinking about the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are an older team. Their core is Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Buckets, a.k.a. Jimmy Butler. And you got to think, if you're the Golden State Warriors, do you want to hit the reset button? Do you have enough left in the tank with Steph Curry to kind of rebuild on the fly? You are going to have to mortgage your future a little bit more in order to grow, in order to be competitive, because in the West it's just going to get worse. You're going to have another Timberwolves situation. You're going to have another OKC situation where a lot of these teams are getting better and better by adding veteran pieces. So I think that from overall, the biggest piece that you want to see from Golden State is them using their cap wise. It says Warriors will go back to, yes, I can see them doing that, but they're not going to get rid of Jimmy Butler. They're not getting rid of Steph Curry. They're not getting rid of Draymond Green. They're going to build around that crew. It's not going to be a high, sexy group of names and things like that. These are going to be veteran cheap contracts. When you think about the guys that they're going to add guys that can be specialists. When you think about your Gary Payton Jr.'s, when you think about the guys like Andre Iguodala's that they used to have, they're going to go search for those this offseason in free agency and get cheaper contracts to where these guys can fit in. I think Kuminga's going to be a big part of them playing next season. I know that he had his drama and issues with the salary, and it's a business. I think they did him dirty. But I think for the most part, Kuminga's going to play a bigger part for this team as far as his rebounding, his playmaking, and he's going to give Steph Curry a running mate that's a younger guy that essentially can build his own offense, that can create his own. That gives Jimmy Butler a little space to move. That gives Draymond Green a little space to move. Even though Draymond is just not a pick and pop guy anymore, he's shown he can play a little bit of offense. He can get out and shoot a little bit. He's worked on his shot. These are things that make the team better. When you have multiple guys that can play multiple positions, multiple ball handling positions, and we've seen Draymond Green brings the ball up. Jimmy Butler brings the ball up. Steph Curry brings the ball up. They are running the offense through different sets and do different players. I think Steve Kerr is going to be charged with actually changing up the offense a little bit, not being stale with his play calling, not doing the ordinary stuff that they normally do. Yes, Steph Curry is a great shooter, but ask yourself, he's ran so many years all around the court and done all these things. Do they ever give him a break in the offense? Do they ever make somebody else the focal point so he doesn't have to always be on the run, hitting threes, picking and popping? Does he always have to do that? So I think that they're going to try to get away from that kind of offense, and that's going to build them up and make them competitive this offseason. And I think that they're going to have a couple of veterans that are on their last contract that would love to try to chase a ring in Golden State. So I think that overall the Golden State Warriors are in a good position because they have quality players that can actually play. So from the standpoint, it's just so much. So at this point, I feel like it's so much that goes on with this actual team that they're going to be able to rebuild on the fly and not have to fully reconstruct everything. So that's just me personally. I think that with Steve Kerr's coaching, I think he's going to let some of his younger assistants allow them into the fold and allow them to start to develop their coaching wings and work hand in hand with the players to get better. That's how Golden State eliminates any distractions from that standpoint. The Houston Rockets are next up on the list. When you think about the Houston Rockets, they have one too many of the same players. They have one too many wings. They have one too many of the same guys. So this offseason, you have to figure out what draft capital you're going to keep. You have to ask yourself, are you willing to give up some of these contracts that you're controlling to get a big star in there or a big name player that's going to help you develop faster? And are you looking for continuity or the flexibility? What I mean by that is right now you have contracts that are under control. You have contracts like Jalen Green, Senguns, Jabari Smiths, Cam Whitmore. These are contracts that are easily spreadable, easily tradable, but you're going to have to make a move to get a star in there. If you're Houston, you need somebody that's going to have that veteran presence, somebody that essentially is like a Kevin Durant, like a LeBron, that's going to teach these young guys how to be professionals and how to win. Now, mind you, you have talent all over the place in Houston. You have the Knicks trying to talk to Udoka at the head coach position. They told him no. They know how special Udoka is as a head coach. So you're looking at this team and saying, can we transition from being the second best team in the West in the regular season to doing something and getting past the first round in the playoffs? Now, they got beat by a veteran team. Let's just be honest. Golden State outsmarted them. Golden State outcoached them. And Golden State outplayed them. While their roster is better than what Golden State has, they played down to their competition and lost. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. We have to understand that Golden State at this point, they shouldn't have beat the Rockets. That's on the Rockets. It wasn't like they just had LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard and all these other players. No. They had the same team that got blown out the water the next series. So I think Houston has to look themselves in the face, take accountability, and say, you know what? We need a little bit more size, we need a little bit more spacing, and we need a little bit more shooting. Golden State essentially dared them to shoot the ball in the playoffs. They couldn't hit shots. When your threes aren't hitting, when your twos aren't hitting, do you have guys that are crashing the boards and making layups? Do you have guys that are playing better defense and stepping up when the offensive side is not available? Do you have those guys that can essentially lock down on defense and help you create stops? That helps generate some type of offense that gets you to the free throw line. That's the big thing for the Houston Rockets. Hands down, one of the most talented rosters in the West. Hands down, one of the most phenomenal coaches in the West. But you have to do something with those pieces because you've got too many of the same piece. And last thing, free agent Steven Adams need to be re-signed. If you're Houston, Steven Adams needs to be re-signed. He's a valuable piece to your organization as well. He's somebody that's going to essentially help you in the future. And I think that that's what it's going to lead to moving forward from that standpoint. Overall, you just got to ask yourself, what is Houston needing? Another dominant big, if you could, get somebody that can back up Sengun, somebody that's going to help this defense grow and blossom. And I think that from the passing standpoint, this team's going to get better. They're going to get better. And I think that overall, give them another 6 months. Give them another 7 months to play together. I think you're going to see Udoka's offense evolve. You're going to see his defense evolve. When you look at the Boston Celtics, they started playing better when Udoka came to the team. Everywhere Udoka's been, when he's been with Brooklyn, they played better. When he was a coach with Boston, they played better. When he came over to Houston, and they were crap as a franchise. They didn't have direction. Udoka led them and got them to the place where they are now. So I think that's going to be important for them. And then you got to ask yourself, Fred VanVleet, what are they doing with his contract? Are they re-signing him? What do you think about the Raptors? I think the Raptors are in a similar boat. They have a lot of pieces that they haven't allowed yet play yet. When you think about overall the Raptors roster, the Raptors has a pretty good roster that can win the East, but you got to ask yourself, do you really see them as a contender every night? Do you see them being the best team in the East right now? You don't. So you got to think about this. From the standpoint, you got Scotty Barnes, you got RJ Barrett, you got Brandon Ingram that they just traded for. You got Jacob that plays the power forward / center position. They have good players. I don't believe they have the pieces to make the trade and to keep stuff that Giannis would want to play with. In order to make a trade for Giannis, you have to give up a lot. You have to probably give up at least 3 first-round draft picks. You have to probably give up at least a starter or 2. And you got to think about that. Once you're done doing that, the Raptors don't have anything to offer Giannis. I don't think that's going to be. Yes, you just got to think about this. As good as Giannis is, you're going to have to gut your franchise to bring him to your team. So if you don't have a lot of draft capital that can outset that, if you don't have a lot of guys that you can expend that are not going to do that, it's tough. It says Bucks will love Scotty Barnes and picks, but you got to think about this. Is that what they're willing to rebuild with? If you're the Bucks, you have to make a trade and get somebody back that you can rebuild with. So I think Giannis would want 1 or 2 of those guys on his team. I don't think Scotty Barnes and I don't think Jacob would be in the mix as far as trades. I think RJ Barrett maybe. Picks can throw it in quickly, yes, but you got to think about this. Do the Milwaukee Bucks want picks if they know the Toronto Raptors are going to be a good team? Ask yourself that. If I'm trading you Giannis Antetokounmpo, chances are you're going to make the playoffs. Chances are you're going to make more than just the first round. So therefore, that's not going to be a lottery pick. Well, that's the thing, though. I think he's pretty good for what it is. And you got to think, because he's in Toronto, that leaves him, from a standpoint, he's in Toronto, but he hasn't played anywhere else yet. So if he's by himself in a new place, this can help him as a player, help him grow and blossom. What did James Harden do when James Harden left OKC? Remember, he was on the bench when he was at Oklahoma City and he got that contract. He was a sixth man of the year. So he wasn't out scoring 30 points a game. He wasn't out giving out 10 assists a game. He says, how can you say he's good and never average? Okay, James Harden. James Harden didn't average 20 points a year in Oklahoma City. But what he did do when he was able to go to Houston, he started averaging more than 25 a game. So again, if a young player hasn't had his growth spurt yet and he hasn't hit that intangible where he knows how to play his full game, it takes time. So I think the Raptors have a good organization. I just think they, Harden didn't start. No, Harden didn't start. He didn't. Look at it. You can go back and look at it. When he was in Oklahoma City, they had Westbrook, they had Kevin Durant, they had Serge Ibaka, they had Kendrick Perkins, and they had one more guy. But Harden was a sixth man. He didn't start. Look it up. You can look it up. These are facts. These are easy facts to look up. You got two MVPs, Westbrook and Durant, and you got the sixth man of the year, which was Harden. It says if Harden started and he wasn't the first option. Harden didn't start. James Harden, the beard, did not start in Oklahoma City. He was a bench player. No, we can look. It's an easy thing to look up. Hold on, let me look it up. I can show you mid and in real time. Yeah, we can look it up in real time. I can look it up in real time. Yeah, we can look it up in real time. James Harden. Let me see. It says he didn't start. They never. Well, man, I'm just being honest with you. No, I typed in it wrong. It says James Harden stats. And this is career. All we gotta do is go to his career. You can see the jump in his stats. We can see the jump in his stats. Yeah, but it's two different time periods and two different teams. It's two different time periods and two different teams. So, James Harden never averaged 20 points playing with I can show you right here. James Harden's rookie season, he averaged 9 points, 9.9. His second season, he averaged 12.2. His third season, he averaged 16.8. This is his 3 seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder. His 3 seasons right here, you're looking at right there. That's Oklahoma City. And you're looking at that right there. 16.6 was his highest stat line. So with that being said, his very next season, he jumped up to 25 points. So yes, so I was correct with that. He jumped up to 25 plus points with the Rockets. He never averaged still no 20. Well, that's the thing though. If you're not allowing a guy to be the number one guy, I don't expect him to average 20 plus points per game. When you've got two guys that are averaging 20 plus points on the team already. Remember, Westbrook was averaging 18, 19. Durant was averaging more than 20. Serge Ibaka was giving you 9 to 10 points, and Kendrick Perkins was giving you 2 to 3. And you had your bench that was also scoring. Scotty, in an offense where they're trading a lot of pieces, you're going to see more of a different offense with Brandon Ingram. You're going to see potentially what they're looking for as far as that guy. So I don't know. That remains to be seen. Again, I can only go by what I see. Again, I don't know that the Raptors organization is going to use Scotty Barnes as the number one guy. I don't know if he's going to be the fixture for what they're doing moving forward. Who's to say that they keep Scotty Barnes as the number one guy? Who's to say that they keep him and they don't trade him off for multiple pieces or multiple draft picks? So if you're saying Scotty's not good, okay, I'm respecting it. But what if the Raptors say, okay, let me see if we can get a Paul George here. Or let's see if we can get someone that plays like blah, blah, blah in here. Or let's just say, let's trade Scotty Barnes for younger players in the draft. There's a number of things the Raptors can do, and they're not stuck in one area. Remember, they're playing in the East. It's very much easier to make the playoffs in the East It says he might be the first All-Star wing to not at least. Well, the thing is, it's easier to make the All-Star team in the East than it is in the West. Think about this: when the Western Conference has their All-Star game, it's cream of the crop, surely, for the West. It's not always that for the East. It's harder because you have more talent in the West, more competitive talent on the West Coast than you do on the East Coast. I hope that helps you, my friend. But the next thing I do want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo was quoted in saying that he's won one NBA title in his career. He wants to win two at least in his career. It would be a complete disappointment if he didn't get that second championship. Well, the Bucks is where he has to possibly stay to do it. But I think that if Giannis wakes up and say, I want to trade, nobody won't be mad with that. Knowing everything that Giannis has done for the organization, you got to ask yourself, can you be mad at somebody that maxed out their potential, that improved their game every year, that carried their team to the NBA Finals and actually won? That's Phoenix series. He put in a spicy 40-point performance and helped them win the championship. When you're thinking about that and what he lost in Drew Holiday, what he lost in Middleton, now what he has to deal with is a hurt Dame Lillard. A Kyle Kuzma that's not really somebody you can depend on. And you got to think, this offseason, they got to make key decisions on Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Bobby Porters, and Taurean Prince. They got a lot of decisions to make. Do these pieces that are individuals on the side add up to the greater sum to help him be better than he was last year? The answer is no. There's nothing really you can do to trade Dame Lillard right now because he's hurt. But you got to ask yourself, because they're top heavy as a roster, is there any improving their roster? Is there any draft pick that they can trade for, a player that they can trade for that essentially can do something better? The answer is probably no. So with that being said, if Giannis wants to win in the East, I will go to the Cavs. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to trade that. I don't think the Cavs are going to give that up, though. That's truly crazy. That's truly crazy. That's truly crazy. So, well, yeah, I get it. The San Antonio Spurs are in a winning position. They're in a driver's seat. You got to think about this. From the standpoint, San Antonio has one of the youngest cores in the NBA. They have Victor Wembanyama, who is one of the most talented young prospects that we've seen. You've got Fox. You've got Castle. You've got the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. You have the number 14 overall pick from the Atlanta Hawks in this draft. You have flexibility for the next couple of years with the cap and the draft. So you have a lot of numbers you can do. You have a lot of things you can do. You could trade out of that pick if you wanted to. This draft class is deep enough where you can trade out, get some resources, and also trade back up, or either stay where you're at when you trade out and get some quality pieces. The San Antonio Spurs are in a great position, flexibility with salary cap. They don't have to be over-aggressive in the offseason. They don't have to mortgage their future to do anything. And guys would love to play with Victor Wembanyama. Giannis would love to. I know a lot of superstars in the West would love to, or in the East would love to. That guy on your team makes your job that much more easier. That guy on your team makes everything easier to where you don't have to struggle. And I think that when it's all said and done, the San Antonio Spurs are going to make the best decisions for them. I think they pick up another draft pick, and I think that, it's going to be great for them moving forward. So these are just some of the things I'm looking forward to in the offseason. I think that this is going to be incredible, and I think you guys should tap in. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I want to make sure you're subscribed right now. And no, I'm not doing Giannis for Jalen Williams for picks. No one's doing that. I would much rather keep Giannis if I had a choice to trading for Jalen Williams. But I enjoyed going live for you guys. Definitely tap in. Make sure you check out Sports Trades Plus on the YouTube platform. And I'll see you on the next episode.